This is 2 Samuel chapters 1 through 4 summary. Chapter 1, David finds out about Saul's death. So David is, after striking down the Amalekites, he goes back to Ziklag. And in chapter 31 of 1 Samuel, Saul just died with all his sons. David didn't know this at this point. So in chapter 1 of 2 Samuel, a messenger comes to Ziklag. He tears his garments and he goes to David, bends down and pays him respect to give him the message. And he says, I have escaped from the Israelite camp. The men fled from the battle. Many have fallen and died, and Saul and Jonathan, his son, are among them, dead. And David replies, how do you know they're dead, Saul and Jonathan? The messenger says, I happened to be on Mount Gilboa and passing by Saul when he was on his sword, dying. He called out to me, who are you? I said, I'm an Amalekite. He said, please strike me down. I'm on death's door. Kill me now. The Amalekite messenger sees that Saul is not going to recover from this, so he kills Saul. He takes his crown and he brings it to David. And that's where we are, at Ziklag. At this news, David and his men tear their robes and garments and they start to mourn. David says to the Amalekite, why were you not afraid to kill the Lord's anointed? And he tells his men to go kill him, kill the messenger. He said, let the blood be on your own head, for you testify against yourself by saying you killed the Lord's anointed. This is after David spares Saul twice. David creates a lament for Saul and Jonathan, and it's taught all throughout Judah. A gazelle lies slain on your heights, Israel, how the mighty have fallen. Tell it not to Gath, proclaim it not to the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines be glad, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised rejoice. Mountains of Gilboa, may you have neither dew nor rain, may no showers fall on your terraced fields, for there the shield of the mighty was despised, the shield of Saul, no longer rubbed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the flesh of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan did not turn back, the sword of Saul did not return unsatisfied. Saul and Jonathan, in life they were loved and admired, and in death they were not parted. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. Daughters of Israel, weep for Saul, who clothed you with scarlet and finery, who adorned your garments with ordnance of gold. How the mighty have fallen in battle. Jonathan lies slain on your heights. I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother. You were very dear to me. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than a woman. How the mighty have fallen. The weapons of war have perished. That's the end of chapter 1. Chapter 2. David is anointed king over Judah. David, at hearing Saul's death, right after this, he goes to inquire the Lord and what he should do next. Where should I go, Lord? And the Lord says, go to Hebron. The Lord says, go to Hebron. So he packs up his things and his men and he goes to Hebron. And he takes his wives there too. He is anointed at Hebron over Judah. He hears that Jabesh Gilead has treated Saul with respect by burning his body and mourning for him 7 days. And he sends a message to them to say, I have heard what you've done. May God bless you. I have become the king of Judah. He says, the people of Judah have anointed me king, as their king. So he's starting to let people know who he is. At this point, Abner, the commander of Saul, he is a very strong presence as a commander and has many men under him. His network is throughout the whole land of Israel. He knows how to politically create another king. He goes to Saul's son Ishbosheth and he creates a king out of him. He made him king over Gilead, Asherai, Jezreel, Ephraim, Benjamin, and all of Israel. So Ishbosheth has become the king. not of Judah, that was King David. They're separated, Judah and the southern parts of Israel. Ishbosheth was 40 years old, and he reigned for 2 years. King David reigned for 7.5 years at Judah. So Abner's men and Ishbosheth and David were rivals during this point. They meet at Gibeon. Their men meet at Gibeon at a pool. Abner's men on one side and David's men on the other. Abner stands up and he says, "Let the young men stand up and fight, hand-to-hand combat." So that's what they do, and the battle was very fierce that day. Asherel is he's very swift on his feet. He charges after Abner after this battle is taking place. And Abner's fleeing away from him, and he says, "Please stop," because Asherel has no weapon. He's just running straight at him. Abner says, "Please stop, grab a weapon. I do not want to kill you. How can I look at Joab in the face, your brother, after killing you?" But Asherel kept going forward, and Abner had to take his spear, the butt of his spear, and plunged it through Asherel's stomach. Every man stopped that day at Asherel and stopped pursuing. Joab and Abishai, the brothers of Asherel, they keep pursuing with their men. And Abner yells out, "Will this day ever end? How long before you order your men to stop pursuing their fellow Israelites?" So Abner talks some sense into Joab, and Joab calls out the trumpet and says to his men, "Let's stop. Let's reconsider our ways. Israel should not be fighting each other like this." 19 of David's men were missing. 360 of the Benjamite Abner's men were missing. That's the end of chapter 2. Chapter 3 starts with explaining that the house of Saul grows weaker and weaker, and the house of David grows stronger and stronger. That's because the Lord is with David, and Saul's house has been cursed for many reasons of what Saul stood for. At this point, Ishbosheth pushes his luck with asking a stupid question to Abner. Abner was sleeping with Saul's concubine. Saul is dead. He died in chapter 1 in 1 Samuel. King Saul's concubine needed somebody to be there for her. So Abner comes in and replaces Saul. Ishbosheth asks him a question, "Why do you sleep with my father's concubine?" Abner takes this as very disrespectful after all the things that Abner did for Ishbosheth, crowning him king, working tirelessly for the kingdom of Israel and for his name to hold it great. And now he's getting backstabbed by a question like this. Abner says, "Far be it from me if I do not give all of Israel to David, like the Lord has anointed him to shepherd the people." It is time. Ishbosheth shuts his mouth. He's afraid at the words of Abner. Abner is the courage of this duo team. Many times kings are just puppets of a stronger man who's pulling the strings. This is Abner. Abner sends messages to David and says, "Let me crown you king over all of Israel. Let's unite and align. Let's make an alliance together. No more fighting. Let's be a team." Abner and David have a lot of respect for each other, and David says, "Good, let's do it. But first, you got to bring my wife, Michal, back to me." Michal, the daughter of Saul, was given to another man when David left to flee from Saul. He left Benjamin, went into the wilderness. Michal was given to another husband. This husband follows Michal all the way to the meeting place that she was assigned to meet Abner. Abner tells the husband, "Go back to Benjamin, go back home. You're not needed here." And the husband has to watch Michal go back to David, to be with David. So he was she was first ripped away from David, and now she's ripped away from another husband. Michal is going back and forth, not by her own making. Abner now goes to all the leaders of Israel, all the elders, and he says, "You have wanted David king over Israel. Let's make it happen." So he gets everybody ready for this transfer in kings. And he treks all the way through Israel to Hebron in Judah. At Hebron, Abner's men and David have a feast together. They make a deal, strike an alliance, everything is good. They celebrate. Now Joab, the commander, Asael's brother, from chapter 1, or from chapter 2, he comes back to the scene, back to Hebron after a mission, and he finds out that Abner has just left Hebron after a feast with David, and they struck an alliance. Joab has no trust for Abner. He counts him as the enemy. So he goes to David, and he doesn't trust that David is working the best interest out for Israel. So he sends messengers on his own authority to Abner to bring him back to Hebron. Abner probably thinks there's something else that needs to be said for the agreement of the alliance. So he comes back willingly, and he meets Joab at the appointed place the messenger said to. Joab is there in a concealed, confined dungeon somewhere, house. He is there with a knife, and he stabs Abner to death after saying, "Let the blood be on your hand for my brother Asael." He died in a wicked fashion of deceit, premeditated murder, and Joab was not a just man for this. David finds out about this killing. He said, "My kingdom and my name and all of Israel is free of this bloodshed. Let the blood be on Joab and his whole entire family. Let his family never be without someone who has a running sore, leprosy, who leans on a crutch, or who falls on the sword, or who lacks food." He curses Joab's family. David loses all his strength at this. Abner was a strong commander of Israel. He was the example, the insignia of courage to the people. David and all the men around tear their clothes once again to mourn. They have a funeral for Abner. David doesn't eat the entire funeral. All the men see how much David is grieving, and they know that he had nothing to do with his death. They're pleased with everything that David is doing. He's grieving for real. And he was too weak to do anything about this act. So he said, "The Lord will give justice to Joab and Abishai, the brothers who had something to do with this killing." That's the end of chapter 3. Chapter 4, Ishbosheth, the king of Israel, is murdered. So Abner dies. They don't know who's the true king. Ishbosheth doesn't have a commander. He's very weak at this point. He loses his strength as well. David is about to be crowned king over Israel, and rumor spreads that Ishbosheth needs to go, and whoever does it might be rewarded a pretty price. So the brothers of Ishbosheth, Rechab and Baanah, they come back from their missions. They were warriors, and they devise a plan to get together and make this happen. Let's go get our brother Ishbosheth. Let's kill him. Now Rechab and Baanah, they set out to the house of Ishbosheth, and he was taking a noonday nap, rest, in the inner parts of the house. They went into the inner parts of the house, going to maybe get some wheat, it looked like, and they take a knife and they stab their brother Ishbosheth to death, cut off his head, and they trek their brother's head all the way to Hebron, all the way to David, drop it at David's feet, and say, This is the head of Ishbosheth. This is for you. He was never supposed to be king. You are supposed to be king. David sees this act as a wicked act, and he doesn't understand why somebody would do this to their own brothers. Ishbosheth was an innocent man. He didn't deserve to die like this. He saw this as very wicked, and he didn't want his kingdom to be established in this manner. Just like the messenger in chapter 1 that killed King Saul and brought his crown to his feet, this is exactly what David does. He sends his men to kill Rechab and Baanah for their act. This sets a precedent around Israel that this will not be tolerated, this type of behavior. David gives orders to his men to take them, cut off their hands and feet, and hang their bodies at the pool of Hebron. This sends a message throughout Israel. This will not be tolerated, this type of behavior. These are wicked men. But he takes Ishbosheth's head and he buries it in Abner's tomb and shows him respect that he was the king over Israel. That's the end of 4. Chapter 5 is David becoming king over all of Israel, being anointed.